Next up, let's talk about the other big upset of the day. It is Arizona State beating Texas Tech 26-22. And this game came down to Arizona State's defense balling out. All the talk about the Big 12, and some were thinking that this league was going to go back to no defense, all offense. Nope, it is defense that is winning teams big games in this league. And it was Arizona State's defense that slowed down, especially in the first half. And the first three quarters, really, when Texas Tech only had 7 points. Slowed down Will Hammond, their backup quarterback, and a Texas Tech running game that had been very effective so far this season. They held Texas Tech to 109 rushing yards. Their leading rusher was Will Hammond. Cameron Dickey and Jacoby Williams never really got it going. Now, part of that was because they were playing from behind all night, so they had to get the passing attack rolling. But even on the passing game, everything was kept in front of Will Hammond for the most part. You didn't see a lot of those big plays. I think, Coy Eakin had one big one, but that was really it looking back on that game. Arizona State took the approach of saying, you know what, we are not going to go out there and allow them to have big strikes. We'll keep everything in front of us. We're going to stop the running attack and try to make Will Hammond beat us in a dink and dunk fashion. And he had some great throws. I mean, some of his touchdown throws, one in the fourth quarter really stands out to me, was tremendous. But at that point, Arizona State was starting to feel itself as well. And what this game also came down to is, to me, time of possession. Arizona State dominated it 37-22. They basically said, we're going to keep the ball away from Texas Tech. And they did that with a ground game that was not great, but was good enough. Raleek Brown scores the game-winning touchdown in the fourth quarter. But it was Sam Leavitt who came back after missing the Utah game where Arizona State lost by 30-plus points, and especially on the final drive. You saw Sam Leavitt prove why, if you've got to win one game in the Big 12, Sam Leavitt is your man. Okay, that's where he proved once again his leadership, his ability, and the fact that against arguably the best defense in the Big 12, with his team trailing late in the game after giving up a couple of scores, he goes 10 plays, 75 yards in a $130 and wins this game for Arizona State. Pulls off the upset, keeps them in the Big 12 race, and makes it so that the Big 12 is no longer going through Lubbock. Texas Tech still has the most talented team in the league. I'm not going to sit here and tell you otherwise. But what I will make the case for now is that if the Big 12 conference season ended today, Tech is not in Arlington. Tech's not playing for a Big 12 championship right now. So you really can't make the case that everything goes through Lubbock. It does not after Saturday. Arizona State has the tiebreaker over Texas Tech. So I'm not sitting here telling you that Tech's going back to the drawing board or anything like that. But for a team that had won every game by at least 24 points, they lost. And yes, I was on Texas Tech. I said I'm going to ride Tech until I'm proven otherwise. And I was proven otherwise on Saturday. And some of you Tech fans, you were warning me. You were like, hey, just take it easy. Take it easy. We're bound to come back down to earth. I don't know about this one. On the road, tough spot. You were right. I have no regrets taking Texas Tech at all. None whatsoever. I needed to see that kind of a performance from Arizona State to believe it. And I know that recency bias was probably part of my decision-making, seeing how that game went against Utah. But you know what? That's the Big 12. Utah looks like they're at the top of the world. They lose to BYU. Arizona State couldn't have looked worse last week. Of course, they didn't have Leavitt, but still, they just looked terrible in every phase. And look what happens this week. Utah goes out there, loses to BYU. Arizona State upsets Texas Tech at home. I mean, that's the Big 12 in a nutshell right there, how this thing played out with those two games on Saturday. So a tremendous performance by Arizona State, and really continuing to be most impressed by the defensive performance. as that game progressed on. And then that final drive by Sam Levitt was just a thing of beauty. I thought at times Dillingham was more aggressive than I expected him to be. Like when Tech got that touchdown before halftime, and it was because Arizona State went for it on a 4th down in their own territory. That one stood out to me where I was like, you're at home, you're playing great. Why do that? Like why? All right. You're sitting there. I think it was a 4th and 1 at their own 45 or something like that. And then that finally allows Tech a little momentum. They get on the board there and they're suddenly, down 7-6. And that didn't make any sense to me at all. But Kenny Dillingham was aggressive. He probably knew he had to be aggressive going into this game against Texas Tech. It was probably part of the game plan. But there were a couple of moments, just like Kyle Whittingham for Utah, where I was scratching my head saying, I get being aggressive. But in that spot in particular, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. It's not going to be something that anybody remembers, but it did come back to bite him. Now, the officiating. David Bailey and that targeting call against Sam Levitt. I didn't think that was targeting. I admit, I didn't think that was targeting at all. I thought that was a bad call by the officials, and it obviously kept an Arizona State drive going in the second half. They end up scoring a touchdown. I just don't know, when you're David Bailey and you're whatever he is, 260 pounds, you're hitting Levitt in a clean hit. I thought it was a clean hit. It was roughing the passer, right? Not targeting. Roughing the passer. It's a clean hit, a split second after he releases the ball. And some were saying on social media that, he kind of followed through on the tackle. He's 260 pounds. All his momentum is going, into Levitt. How's he supposed to stop his body there? That's not roughing the passer. Now, I know some of you on an earlier key play on the other side wanted a holding penalty against Jordan Tyson after Sam Levitt launched it down the field. I'm forgetting exactly the moment in this game, but that had Kenny Dillingham going nuts on the sideline. And you know what? You could have sold me on that being a holding penalty against Tech, which would have obviously kept a key Arizona State drive alive. I never think that these games, unless it's something totally egregious, comes down to a penalty here or a penalty there or a no call here or a no call there. I don't usually think any game goes down that way, but I did want to address those two because I know that was something that many of you brought up. But this game was about Arizona State. First off, staying in the Big 12 title race. They would have been out if they lost this game. They were desperate. Their backs were against the wall. And Kenny Dillingham said, I got this. And Sam Levitt said, I got you, coach. And the defense said, we got both of you guys. And that results in Arizona State really upending a Big 12 race that we did not know whether or not it could be upended this way after how Tech had been playing over the last few weeks. Subscribe to the channel. I'm Pete Mundo. We're Heartland College Sports. We cover the Big 12, and we are glad that you are here, as always, joining us on the show.